Back on Head On, I'm Ian Holmes, focused now on the Maffeo-Sutton portion of downtown Maffeo-Sutton Park with Hilton Hotel's proposal, insight developments for a large hotel tower. We'll talk a little bit about the Wellcox Yard site and also the South Downtown Waterfront area, the Assembly Wharf lands. We'll start here now with this hotel proposal. John, this is some big news coming out, this insight development proposal here for the Hilton Hotel. There was recently a public open house with rave reviews. I talked to nearly 30 people and only a couple of people voiced concerns. There's pictures of it up on your screen now. John, your overall assessment on this development that just came down the pipe recently?
Very exciting, yes, and very new. Insight have owned that site for several years, and originally the concept was a condominium development, but in more recent times they've decided that an upscale hotel was necessary. They entered into a contract with Hilton, and so it'll be actually about a 33-story building, about 30 above ground, and 303 rooms, at least a 4-diamond rating. It's going to be a first-class hotel for Nanaimo.
And what will that mean for downtown Nanaimo? Influx of people, more money being spent. I'm told 400 to 600 jobs. There's a lot going on here economically, John. Well,
the Hilton Hotel is valued at $100 million, which is a huge investment. And then, of course, we have the Suzo Youth Travel Services, which is the conference center hotel. And the building permit is just being finalized now. We expect that to start at any time. Here we have a 21-story building, 240 rooms, 2 restaurants on the top floor overlooking the ocean. And to think that these are both being started very close together. Obviously, the Conference Center Hotel will go first. It's going to have a walkway right from the hotel, an aerial walkway right into the Conference Center. And then over to Piper Park, there'll be a bridge so people can access the park, and then the waterfront from there. So it's exciting. It's exciting. And I think the big winner in all this will be our Conference Center. You know, there's been concern about the fact we can seat 1,300 people, we can feed 950 at a time, but we don't have enough first-class rooms available for large conferences. That problem will now be solved.
All right, Tom, and just to the north, you wanted to mention some improvements coming to Maffeo-Sutton Park and how that relates to this hotel proposal.
Yes, as you know, Maffeo-Sutton Park got a real facelift a few years ago. We're still working at addressing some of the washroom problems in the park, and with this new Hilton Hotel proposal, the Georgia Park, which is right below it, and the promenade, we need to do some infrastructure upgrades there. There's a couple of pinch points on the walkway, and we need to again redo that area and provide some better renovation to get people moving through there better.
2 large hotel towers in downtown Nanaimo. Do you think that's something that, well, it's obviously private and sector dollars. It's not so much skin of the city of Nanaimo's game in on this, but from a private sector perspective, will that work? And do you think it will detract from the current hoteliers, John? Can you comment on that?
I don't think it will. I know the current hoteliers will have a certain amount of anxiety that they may lose some clientele on it. But really, both of these 2 large hotels are targeting Southeast Asia as a market. They both have money from China that's invested in it, and they both see huge opportunity to bring Chinese tourists over to Canada, and certainly to Nanaimo, recognizing that about 4 years ago the Chinese government approved Canada as a visiting nation for their citizens. And the Suzo Youth Travel Services envisions bringing in 70,000 customers a year to this hotel. 70,000. So that's huge. And the 303 rooms at the Hilton, huge, just huge.
We'll turn our attention south to the Wellcox Yard. The city purchased that a couple of years ago. 27 acres of industrial foreshore site. The city has plans to improve some connectivity through that area. Tom, this is where the waterfront trail potentially could swing through, but there's quite a bit of work to do, isn't it, from a City Hall's perspective to get this to more of a usable space?
Yes, in fact, right now, Council recently approved guiding principles that will guide development in that area for the next 30 to 40 years, and that document can be seen on the city's website. But some of the key things are to promote accessibility in that area, so that's where the waterfront trail would fit in as that area gets developed.
And we'll flash that up on the screen now, the Wellcox Yard site. We have a bird's eye view that we can flash up on the screen here of that site. If guys, we can get that up on the screen here. There it is now, and you can see mainly industrial there is a plan for a transportation hub to the upper part of your screen, as I understand it. John, that's an aspect to improve public mobility as well?
Yeah, it's the upper right, actually, and that's going to be where we envision a transportation hub. We're hoping, we're working hard on that fast ferry, the passenger-only service from Island Ferries.
That's at the bottom right portion of the screen, is
yes,
it? Yeah.
Well, it's about midway on the screen on the right-hand side. There's 2 bays there, and that's where it'll be set up. We want to see the RDN, Regional Bus Transit, set up there. It's a good possibility. Via Rail may resume that service. The first train to Victoria will leave there early in the morning, and then of course we would like to get the long haul buses in there as well. So it'll be a true transportation hub.
But I guess the industrial routes are remaining potentially with if the train does in fact go through there, and also that fast ferry. That could be a busy little spot if the stars align for the city moving forward in the years ahead, Tom.
Yes, and that's why it was important to do that guiding principles and really look at what are the long-term thoughts in developing that area. So that's the guiding document's now been completed, and that's something we can use as we move forward.
Another aspect of downtown Nanaimo starting to get a little bit more attention, this hotel tax, the 2% hotel tax money benefiting at least for the interim for the next 4 years to help bolster amenities on Newcastle Island is the plan from a tourism perspective. John, talk a little bit about Newcastle, improving access to the island. It's a provincial park, but the wheels seem to be in motion to create a little bit more vibrancy on Newcastle, but keeping that natural feel over there.
Well, it is a provincial park. It's contracted to SFN, Nanaimo First Nations have a contract to manage it. We see a huge opportunity there, and this 2% hotel tax, which is basically an accommodation tax, is to be used for tourism purposes. And I understand the hotels and NEDC, Nanaimo Economic Development Corporation, see a great value in developing Newcastle Island, and I think having iconic typical Nanaimo village there would be absolutely a great draw, possibly with Coast Salish food in restaurants. Great fit. We have to address the transportation access and egress. Right now the ferries are a little bit expensive. We might have to subsidize them, but getting to and from the island is the problem we have to work on.
It's people refer to it as the Stanley Park of Nanaimo. You have this completely treed, beautiful island. The perimeter trail, it's all there. The infrastructure from a natural walkway perspective is there. You have the trail all the way around and the interconnecting trails throughout the interior of that island. Tom, there's a lot of potential over on Newcastle, it would seem, from the outside looking in.
Absolutely, and if you ever go visit, you'll sure have a good day's walking the trails, and a lot of nice beach areas on there, and it's quite enjoyable.
But you know, Ian, you got to remember too that this is not a new development. In the 30s, in the 1930s, the CPR used to actually run a boat from Vancouver right to Newcastle, then to Nanaimo, back to Newcastle, and back to Vancouver. So these CPR ships actually tied up there, and in the 30s and leading up to the Second World War, it was a very popular venue, and we want to see that redeveloped and happen again.
There's been some rumblings of the potential from the Stewart Avenue side across to Newcastle, perhaps a footbridge. Nothing official has come forward in terms of a proposal in this regard, but logistically, Tom, from your perspective, your expertise, do you think that's something that is a realistic possibility, a footbridge to Newcastle Island?
I think all that is really a community decision and something that council has to consider along with the BC Parks and Synamic, so that's a longer term consideration.
It is. One of the conditions, of course, and concerns we've got to address is aircraft, low-flying aircraft entering into the channel there, and also a lot of marine traffic and sailboats and so on. So, you know, this is why the whole picture has to be looked at closely and find out what's the best way to do it.
But that would solve the access side. It's so close there from those marinas and the Stewart Avenue side over to Newcastle Island. You could walk across in 1 minute essentially. It's right there.
And then that's why now the plan is to examine access options and move those forward. And that again provides opportunities for people visiting the downtown to use the trail, but if they can link to Newcastle Island, that all the better.
Gentlemen, I really appreciate your time. Thanks for coming on the program.
Thank you.
That's a nice in-depth conversation with Mayor John Ruttan, also the General Manager of Community Services, Tom Hickey, talking about extending the Waterfront Walkway Trail. It's definitely a lot of things happening behind the scenes at City Hall to really make this happen. There's some things happening on the southern portion of the trail, and the city certainly working towards this. We'll definitely hear more about this in the years to come, and really appreciated all the help to make this episode come together. Folks behind the scenes at City Hall were working over the last few days to help get these documents and pictures into us, Tom, so appreciate yourself and your staff for making that happen. Also, Raymond Albert for helping to shoot that footage at the Maffeo-Sutton Park on the waterfront trail itself there the other day to get some of that footage to add a little bit more context here to the show. That's it for another edition of Head On here on Shaw TV. I'm Ian Holmes. Tune in next time for another episode getting into issues that really matter here on Mid-Vancouver Island on Shaw.